Quite a few people have asked me to do a shop tour video now that my shop is relatively clean. I don't like doing those kinds of videos, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through what I consider to be my top projects that I've built over the years. These are the projects that I get the most use out of, and these are the projects that are actually still with me because, as you know, if you've been following along, I get rid of things that don't work for me. This list is going to kind of go towards the top, although I'm making it up as I go through the shop. I'm going to start here with this, and this is my Outfeed Support. I made this to have the bench grinder underneath, although the bench grinder is something I rarely use, but I do get a lot of use out of this. I borrowed the idea for the flip top thing here from a retail product, and the beauty of the stand is how stable it is. It's not going to tip over as you're pushing the wood over it. Next up is my leveling base for my drill press here. This is a floor standing drill press, but it moves around quite a bit unless it's bolted down to the concrete floor. And that's the reason why I made this stand right here. It widens the stands. Also, it lifts it up off the floor, and I find it a lot more comfortable to use at this height. I don't use my lathe very often, but the stand that I built a few years ago has served me extremely well. It's very solid and strong. It's also very simple, which is what I like. It doesn't have very many surfaces for dust to land on, and that's what I was going for when I built it. Now, you've probably seen this one in several videos. This is my scrap wood cabinet, and this is where I put all of my shorter scraps of wood that I'm going to use for future projects, because that's usually what I use. It also has a lot of storage space for general junk that you'll have cluttering up your shop. So that's where I put mine, in here, and then at least I can, root through it when I need something. It has drawers down on the bottom here. A couple of them are blocked right now, but I can put a lot of stuff in those as well. Now over here at the table saw, I have the panel cutting jig that I made about a year ago, and I have made table saw sleds before, and I've got a bigger one down there, but I got to be honest, I never take it out, because if I can't do it on this thing right here, the wider panels, I'm going to be doing it on this one right here. This is my mini table saw sled. And this is very handy for so many different cuts that you're going to make with the bigger sled. Except, you know what? How light these things are? It's amazing. And for me, that's half of the battle right there, making them light enough so that they're convenient to use. Over here, I have two more projects that have served me well over the years. First is my Bellt disc sander right here. As you can see, it combines the best of both things. It has a 1-inch belt and a 5-inch disc sander down here, and an adjustable table to get the angle just right. I put a motor on the back of mine, but it can be driven by a regular handheld drill. Next to that, I have my Bellt sander platform, and what that does is it holds my 3x21 Bellt sander in place upside down like this. I used to have it made so that it could tip over, but I took that part off because I never did that. I always used it in this orientation right here. Of course, these are sitting on my downdraft sanding table. I rarely use it as a downdraft sanding table, but what makes this cabinet so functional and useful are all these drawers that I put down here that hold all of the different fasteners that I have on hand. Whenever I need something, I just come over here and look, and the ones in the middle here have all the screws that I normally use for my projects in bins that can be taken out and put on the workbench. Doubling back a little bit, I've got my homemade belt grinder here. This is a 2x72, and it works great. I put it on a stand here that's fairly narrow and slips right in here. If I need to pull it out, it has wheels on the back. All I do is lift it up on the front here and pull it out, and I can move it wherever I need it. And this is something that you're not going to find in every shop, but if you're doing a lot of metal work, I can highly recommend it. It's really a whole lot better than one of those small bench grinders. Okay, now we're heading into the home stretch. We're into the bigger stuff here. This is my bandsaw, my homemade bandsaw. I made this a few years ago. It took me a long time to make. It has a steel frame, And there's a very extensive build article on my website. And there's a link in the description if you want to go check that out. Now this thing hasn't been exactly trouble-free. I had to replace the bearings in it a couple times. And even now I think they're starting to wear out again. What they really need is a bigger shaft so I can use bigger bearings. But other than that, it's worked absolutely fabulously great. I've done all kinds of cutting on it. I did resawing on big hunks of maple log even, and it didn't have much of a problem cutting the bigger stuff. And it's just as capable at cutting the smaller stuff. I've got a 1/4-inch blade on here now. This cabinet right here has saved me so much time I can't even calculate how much. It has all of the drill bits that I normally use whenever I'm using the drill press. They're on the front there for easy access, and then I've got storage on the inside. Inside here I've got the fence for my drill press table. Keep that in there. Also some smaller shelves for hole saws and whatnot. I've got an open shelf down here for the vices that I use. And a couple of drawers down below for the loose bits that I have. Next up is my tool board and tool cubbies up above. This thing has been one of the biggest additions to my shop that has saved me time over and over again. When I first built this, I said to myself, there's no way, and I've had comments on it too when I was building it, that there's no way, John, you're going to be able to keep that stuff there. But I have religiously put everything back whenever I use it, and I make a point of it. And it's easy to do when you've got everything put in its place like that. I built this workbench even before I started on YouTube, and I've upgraded it several times since then. Recently, I redid the top to lighten it up here a little bit. This bench, I think, is the perfect size for this size shop. It is 72 inches long and 25 inches wide. That gives me a good surface here to build stuff on. It also allows me to have this big vise clamped on in the corner there. So it's very handy to use. There are two other vices on this bench. I've got a tail vise over here that I rarely use, and I've also got a quick release bigger side vise over here. I don't use the side vise that much either, but when I do, it's very handy because of its extra large capacity. Next, I want to talk about my miter saw station here. I started building this last year, this time, as part of a bigger plan to reorganize the shop. And it started with this. And if you have a miter saw, especially a big one like this, that you use a lot, you know how much mess that can create. So the best, in my opinion, the best plan to keep the mess to a minimum is to box it in like this. And that way, all the mess is contained inside there. And then what that does for you is it leaves all this space around here to add storage, which you can really maximize, and that's what I've done here. First up over here, I've got dust collection for the miter saw right inside here, built in. It turns on whenever the saw comes on automatically. Now directly below that, I've got a bay here with a stand that rolls out that has my surface planer on there to keep it in and out of the way when I'm not using it, and relatively dust free. That's what the door is for. Beside that, I've got a bank of drawers that is directly underneath the saw. The first one here is for saw blade storage, and then the rest are for general storage, and they're all on 24-inch full extension drawer slides. I've got an upcoming project that'll fit in this bay over here. It's my new router table, and that'll slip right in there, and I'll have a door on the front just like the other end over there. This cabinet up here is not part of the miter saw station. It was on the opposite wall over there, and I moved it over here to utilize all the storage space that I have up here now behind these 4 doors. And then on the ends, I added these special vertical drawer units that I keep various things in. And the beauty of these things is how well they keep your tools organized. They're very similar to the tool board up there in that regard. And then I've got more of that vertical storage over here that works in exactly the same way as the ones up above. This one has bins that are removable. The one next to it has the nail guns that I use most often, plus storage for the nails. And then the one on the end here is a custom router bit rack that slides out. Has all my router bits plus the wrenches, the spare collets, and miscellaneous things I need for my router. We're down to the final two, and anyone that's been following along while I've been building stuff on YouTube will know that one of those is the table saw. And this is the one that I built 5 years ago, and I've been using it ever since. I built it back in my old shop and I brought it here, and it has served me very well since then. It was originally a saw that I bought used for, I would consider it to be $50 because I bought two saws for $200. The better one was a Delta one. I didn't actually finish building that one. I built this one instead, and it's been going great ever since. I put a lot of work into it though. I built the base for it that keeps it fairly stable. I put a different motor on. It's actually the motor from the Delta saw. It's a little bit more powerful. And I built the Outfeed extension here from wood and the side table that has a router lift in. When I build a new router table over there, this one will go. We're there. We're at number one. Number one for me is my table saw fence. This thing has really been excellent. It was easy to build, easy to set up, easy to install, and it has worked perfectly since I put it on there. That's why I call it my number one most successful project of all here in the shop. Now, there are a few projects that I didn't mention that were still very successful. I'm going to put links to those in the description along with all of the other projects mentioned here. The links will bring you to website articles that show the builds in details, and the build videos that go along with the projects are right there in the website article. Very handy, a lot more convenient than trying to hunt through all of my videos looking for a specific project. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time.